Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for building an agentic go-to-market system with a human in the loop. I'm Mike Winkler, founder of Marketing at the Edge, where we help organizations really modernize their go-to-market engines through AI-driven frameworks, agentic workflows, and now really human-centered automation. Much of my recent work has focused on proving how AI can be applied, not as a gimmick or as a one-off, but really as a measurable accelerator to enhance that go-to-market precision, velocity, and scalability. Today, we're going to show you exactly how to achieve that balance. AI-powered automation with humans really steering the outcome. And when I say humans, it's really marketing steering that outcome. Joining me today is Michael Winkler, who leads the design and technical integration of these systems. And I met Michael quite a few months ago when he was building out a similar system focused around just how do you better utilize LinkedIn with automation. And it struck me that he was really onto something that I hadn't seen before. Now, he spent over 20 years in large and medium enterprises, leading technical teams in IT security, infrastructure operations, and most recently has been a solopreneur in AI-based applications and micro SaaS. So, Michael, welcome to the webcast. I'm really excited to
Thank you.
highlight, yes, I'm excited to highlight how you've kind of architected this solution.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We spent a lot of time discussing this and kind of going through various scenarios, and we've put together sort of a proof of concept that kind of illustrates the possibilities, right?
Absolutely. And I've learned so much from just our interactions to see what is really possible. So, but let me start by framing this bigger picture. How marketing operations itself is really evolving and why agentic systems are really that next step in that journey.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when we talk about AI and how it's evolving and sort of the low code or no code environments that are available for people that don't have a lot of experience in writing applications, you can piece a lot of tools together in a logical way that automates a tremendous amount of work.
I think some people can piece this together. I mean, I think I've learned a lot from this process, but it needs someone like yourself that really helps orchestrate this process.
Right.
So I'm gonna start sharing some screens and kind of talk about this evolution of marketing operations. That and I want to challenge you, not you, Michael, but you, the audience, to confront the pace of change and really the cost of inaction. And marketing is evolving faster than most organizations can adapt. And I think when I say most, I think almost all. The tools to me aren't the problem. The mindset is. Yesterday's best practices are really today's blind spots. The static playbooks, the manual workflows, the siloed ops teams are no longer keeping pace with the buyer or the market for that matter. And I've talked a lot about this in my writing and other webcasts that, that buyer's journey has changed. Whereas before they ever wanted to have a conversation with you, they were 70% of the way through the process. And now with AI tools, it's really closer to 90%. And that really leads into a shift from rules-based reporting to really goal-driven orchestration. And for me, the future really belongs to teams that design for adaptability. AI isn't replacing marketers. It's exposing who's ready to lead and who's stuck managing yesterday's processes. And I'll add one other caveat to that. I believe, agentic systems and what we're able to do now allows smaller organizations to compete with much bigger, much broader, much bigger organizations because of the tools they bring forward to you. Michael, do you have some thoughts about that?
No, I think you're right. I think if you're not evolving with the tools and the capabilities, you're really going to be struggling because your competitors are.
No, agreed. So let me kind of then go into what is agentic go-to-market. And for us, it's really AI-driven workflows that autonomously execute tasks. They learn from outcomes and then they adapt. And they're really based around three pillars. The signal data, the data and intent inputs, the systems the automations that enrich, score, and activate those signals, and then the story. That's, the human crafted narrative that differentiate your brand. The important component, though, in this is that human in the loop. It really means that marketers really design the strategy, they design the guardrails, while AI agents execute and monitor and surface insights. But is that human then that is going back into that and adapting the process, learning, improving, influencing that outcome? And one big advantage that this gives you is traditional marketing, how we work is we try to craft stories and messaging to a industry level target audience. And the better ones, we're going down to, oh, we understand that company, and we start to design messaging down to that company level. What agentic systems allow us to do is to go to that next layer, to go to that VP, to go to that chief operating officer, to go to that marketer, to that salesperson within that company with a tailored message specifically for them. And that's what this allows us to really bring forth. Now, I'm not going to go deep into the tool stack because I want to turn this over to Michael. But the point I want to make around this tool stack is this is able to be adapted to your tool stack. This is kind of how we approach this with the tools we had readily at hand, and that any small and medium business can utilize really a low cost of entry kind of perspective. But the capabilities around this are much broader. So with that, I want to actually stop sharing, and I'm going to turn this over to Michael and let him kind of demonstrate what this looks like, because that's what you're here for, to really understand how this process works and how you can adapt it to your organization.
Sounds good. Let me share my screen and I'll kind of talk through kind of the methodology and the thought process of how we build out a workflow. So at a high level, so this is make.com, by the way, and this is a scenario that we built that illustrates input, right? So we have input of leads and they can come from any source. It could be from our website, it could be from outreach, it could be from any of your existing systems, existing customers. The goal of this particular scenario is to enrich that lead and identify whether or not they're fitting our ideal client profile. And if so, what action should we take? We go through a number of steps. The trigger or the input of this is if there's a new row on my worksheet, and this is a Google sheet. And just for reference, I can share kind of what that looks like. So it's just basic data about the lead. In a lot of these cases, I've got their LinkedIn URLs and locations. And then on the right side, we're looking at some sample output of the system. So back to our workflow. So at a high level, data in, and then what do we do with that data? We can research the data, we can transform the data into something else. And with these agentic tools, one of the things that we do is stack requests out to these large language models. So on the screen, you'll see Perplexity. Perplexity does a particularly good job of searching the web and doing research. There's one here that says just research. There's another scenario that it calls. It's a little bit more elaborate for screen share size. We shrunk it down to one icon, but essentially it goes out to a third party and asks for information about the company or the person that we can elaborate on. And then we have ChatGPT analyzing the data and providing it to us in a way that we can consume it. So it breaks down the company size, the revenue, physical location, age of the company, the industry they're in, pain points, and so on, so that we can generate another report from that. And then Perplexity validates the report. We write it out to a Google Doc, and then we record those data elements to a Google Sheet. And they can be just what the next steps are and so on. And then we can also push that to HubSpot or any other CRM to kick off an automation within that tool. We can send an email to the sales manager, whatever it is that we want that trigger event to do. And we can put filters in there and conditions that say, if this meets 70% of my ideal profile, send this to the sales team. Or maybe the data point is this significant insight into their desire to purchase soon. So whatever those insights are, we can trigger events and route those independently, and we set up a router for that. So when we do that, now I'll just I'm going to click run once here, and you can see it just sort of goes through that workflow. Some of these take a little longer than others. And then I'm just going to jump right to the output of this particular scenario. So,
And I want to interrupt you as you do that, because here's the key to all of that. This process has always been a very manual process. And, from an outbound perspective and a targeting perspective, this takes weeks to build and get it to the point where you truly understand a prospect and you're ready to put that into your CMS
right,
to orchestrate and create an outcome that you hope that you've identified appropriately, and they click on it and you get a click through of 1%. This changes that, because it's going in and understanding that prospect down to their pain point level. It's
right,
understanding that prospect about what are the triggers that are going to make them want to look at you. They want to make it look at your solutions because your solutions provide an outcome for a pain point or a business requirement they need. That's what this system can do.
exactly. And the human in the loop piece of this is on the output side. And usually what we would do in the automation is we would put a marker here that says waiting for input. And this could be an email response. It could be Slack chat message. It could be any tool that you have in your environment where I can send a message to it and wait for a response. So here's the data I have found. I think you should do X. Do you agree? Yes, and then it'll trigger the workflow. So back on my Google Sheet, we've got the business needs, and we started breaking that out into multiple columns here. Here's the challenge, geographic expansion. Their goal is to maintain operational efficiency, and they had 3 in this particular case. They may have more, and we'll just extend those out. But this one is a 65% match to my ICP. This one is a 70. That one's a 40. So, 40 we likely wouldn't want to follow up on. So it gives us that insight at a very high level. And from a detailed reporting perspective, you think Jack, here's my 70% match. And this is Atlas Crane Services here just outside Chicago. And, they're a partial fit to the target size and the revenue range. Location is a strong fit. Industry is probably not the best for our target. And then we can look at their pain points and opportunities and how those are spelled out. The way large language models work, this is often based on similar companies. It's not that they have this detailed of insight on this particular company, but it's inferring a lot based on the industry, the size of the organization, geography, and so on. You just have to be aware that that's one of the potential outcomes of using a large language model. And we can build into the prompt to be explicit. We can use research tools that will give us better data. So some of this is coming from a research tool that just gives us firmographics about the organization. And then the opinionated data here comes from the large language model analyzing that data.
And all of this was built at the very beginning from a ideal client profile. And that
Correct.
human in the loop perspective, what that allows us to do is say, oh, we're getting a lot of potential prospects that aren't fitting our ideal client. We either A, need to streamline our ICP or expand our ICP. So we're going to learn from this process, just like we go into and learn from our closed won rate and understand, well, where are we winning? Those are the type of clients we want. Let's build that into our ICP. Let's refine that. And this tool then can automate, this agentic system just starts to bring that in and starts to surface even better and better prospect targets for us.
Exactly. Let's just take a look and see if that one's done. It is still running, but I had it actually running 3. So let me check my folder here and see if we have a new item. Let me reduce that one. I have no idea what this is going to say, so it's news to both of us. This is just one that it processed while we were talking, and it'll continue to go through. I gave it a target of just go through the next 3 leads. And if I have this as, let's say I have this Google Sheet as the output of one of my systems, if my website is writing to it, if my email system we're extracting things and writing to it, it can be fed by anything. We can automate those things as well. And the way this sequence works is I can have it watch anytime a new row is added, and I can run this every minute, every 20 minutes, whatever the schedule is. And then as that new data comes in, we run it through the process and make decisions on it in near real time.
Yeah, and from a marketing organization perspective, we could have this run on a nightly basis so that when you walk in the morning, you have all of this at your hand. You have this spreadsheet, and it can be in your CMS system as well of these triggers and say, yes, I want to reach out to that person. No, that's more of a nurturing opportunity, or I want my inside sales calling this person immediately. And here is the information about the challenges we believe they're going to face. And that can actually build a talk track of how we address that specific prospect in that talk track. There's so many capabilities that this bring about that allow you to do this in a day or even in hours or even in minutes versus weeks. And a lot of times in business, more than a day of response, you've lost that. You have to act immediately.
I think that's the demo, and we can let this run some more if you like. But do you have questions, Michael, about the potential or other ways to gather data?
Well, I mean, the ways you've got both outbound campaigns that you're running and inbound campaigns, but it comes down to how do you target that message, whether it's an outbound or an inbound campaign? How do you target that message? How do you equip sales with how to have a conversation? And what this tool allows you to do Agentic, and I keep calling it a tool, it's so much more than a tool, but what this Agentic framework allows you to do is create a process that is almost instantaneous, that allows you to respond rapidly, to allows you to compete as a much larger organization. And for me, that's going to be a key. Human in the loop isn't a limitation, it's a leadership advantage. You define the strategy, AI really scales the execution. Any closing thoughts, Michael, that you want to provide?
I think that the potential is out there. One of the things that I see a lot of organizations moving quickly towards is customer support through AI agents. And those discussions are great starting points for the process because someone can be on your website and asking a question of your bot. They've given you their email address. You know what their pain point is because they asked the bot about it, and that can trigger a real world interaction from a human. And those processes, you can have all sorts of different paths for them. Lots of opportunities.
Agreed. So, I want to thank the audience, obviously, for tuning into this segment of Marketing at the Edge, building an agentic go-to-market system with human in the loop. And a huge thank you to Michael Winkler for helping create this system and sharing this capability with the audience.
No problem. It was a fun little project.
Absolutely. And, for those of you that want to explore more, we would love to kind of show you how this works, show you this proof of concept and how it can work for your organization. Now, if you want to learn more from Michael, follow him on LinkedIn, and I'll put up your LinkedIn address. But I'll close with this. AI isn't coming for marketers. It's coming with marketers to help us build faster, to think smarter, and truly to connect deeper. I'm Mike Elliott. This is Marketing at the Edge.